Okay, hi, this is Elliot Fishman, and welcome to our Facebook Live. And today is February something or other. And I got to lean this way, or you can't see where it says what I learned in Orlando. Okay, now you see it. Those are Mickey Mouse ears. Okay, terrific. So we just had our 36th annual Court. It was terrific, fantastic speakers. You should have been there. We're at the Swan Hotel, which is a Marriott property, really nice. We had spectacular weather. I think it drizzled a couple times maybe the first day, but the temperature, if you came early, you stayed after the meeting or during the meeting, the temperature was in the low to mid 80s. In fact, my family complained it was too hot, which I kind of agree with. But the point was, it was really beautiful weather. People went to the parks. People did a whole bunch of things, and people came to the meeting. We had wonderful talks. Perry Pickard from Wisconsin, and then Jan Fritz and Linda Chu and Stefan Zimmerman and Steve Rowe from Hopkins and myself. So I think hopefully people were happy with the meeting. We're going to try to come back. We're working on dates for President's Day next year, 2021. So put it on your calendar now. I think it's a great meeting. I think, again, we also have hands-on. Tony Cook, who's an expert on computer workstations, does the hands-on training. You can do that before breakfast, during lunch, at the end of the day. I think it works out very well. I stayed because of my grandchildren. I stayed and went to Epcot, Magic Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios. The place keeps getting renamed. So I just wanted to clarify something. I had this picture that was on Facebook the other day that said I met this really cool girl in Orlando. Now, let me see if I can get this. Okay, maybe you can see it better. I won't try to zoom up more. I have to admit that I appreciate the people who want to know who I was dating or anything like that. I think that was really very nice. I take that as a great compliment. But for those of you who have been under a rock, that's Elsa. You know, like Frozen. And, you know, in the first movie, Frozen 1, she wore a blue dress. Now it's a white dress, you know, let it flow, let it go, whatever that song is. But I will say that, you know, the Frozen movie, which has made billions and billions of dollars worldwide, is really, I know from the kids, it's just, they're Frozen. My grandson saw all the characters, and they were all great, from the Ewoks to the soldiers to Chewbacca to Mickey Mouse and Pluto and all those things. But when he loves Frozen. When he saw those two girls for the meet and greet, he was frozen. So that was, you know, it was cute. And so it was a lot of fun. And I think the one thing you learn from Disney is, although the crowds were incredible, I mean, if you wanted to go to see the new Star Wars thing, you had to be there before. You did there 6 a.m., sign in, everything was sold out by 8 o'clock. So maybe President's Week, unless you plan well, is not the best thing for that. But there were a lot of cool things to go to, and it was a great meeting. I did learn, you know, in terms of what I learned. I mean, I learned a lot of stuff on musculoskeletal, or relearned a lot of stuff that Jan spoke about, from dual energy to vascular. Perry Pickard spoke about the importance of oral contrast material and gave a great talk on that. His article is it's actually published now, though it's in the June issue of AJR, so that works out very, very well. Really good there. Spoke about several other things, including incidental and complications post chemotherapy. So really, really good talks. And Linda spoke about pancreas and in terms of pancreatic cancer and difficult diagnosis. And Steve Rowe gave a great talk on cinematic rendering, and a couple terrific talks on PET-CT. PET-CT more for the radiologist, not so much for the nuclear medicine person. So it was really good. We had a lot of technologists at the meeting. So the meeting, I think, does a good job of meeting the needs of both technologists and radiologists. We have a lot of familiar friends there. So I think in that sense, it was really good. And I was very, very happy with the course. As I said, you know, CME is undergoing a radical change. People aren't going to meetings. I'm not sure people are actually reading anymore, but I think it's a great way of learning. We'll be back, as I said, in Orlando, but our next meeting is, and probably the last meeting we're going to have for this calendar year of 2020, will be May 29th to 31st. We do meetings 3 days. It's going to be in Nashville. It's a new hotel, Drury Hotel downtown. Supposed to be spectacular. It's like a block and a half from the Country Museum Hall of Fame, and they're right down all the main things. So it should be a lot of fun. We have great speakers, Marilyn Siegel, Alec Megabo, and some of the Hopkins guys. So it should be really good. So I think that part's really good. Now, I also was going to say that one of the things you'll learn when you go to Orlando is the importance of customer service, the whole Disney experience, which I think is okay. I mean, it's kind of stretched a little bit, and they do charge a lot of money, and the food sucks, but that part's kind of true. But we had Brian King last night from Marriott, and I did want to interview Brian on Facebook. Would have been great to interview him, and maybe we'll have to do that at a different time. Brian's like the chief operating officer in charge of the whole the whole customer experience, and he's worldwide. So it's not like he's US or Canada. He's every place, all 7,000 Marriotts plus in the world. And, he spoke about the challenges that companies face. Marriotts are in China. China basically is shut down now, and how that affects the company, but also how it affects people. And particularly his interest in how it affects people. And Marriott, it really, even though there's hundreds of thousands of employees, does seem to really believe they are one big family, and people worry about each other. So that part was really good. Brian spoke last night. I'm sorry for that. I don't know what that noise is, but just ignore that noise. Believe it or not, it's in the pipes. It sounds like drilling. I found out it's something with electricity in the pipes, which, whatever. What I was very impressed with Brian's talk for many things is they're constantly rethinking how things go, making the point that the customers are changing. There's different generational changes. There's different expectations. He made the point how people really want to know what's going on. And he said, for example, Uber was always a little tricky. The taxi's coming, hope it shows up. But then the Uber app changed. You can see the car, it's 2 minutes away, 1 minute away. You're not really stressed out that the car is not going to make it or you're going to be late, because if you notice, the app always tells you what time you're going to get, where you're going, and where the car is. And by the way, let me just tell you that if you are going to Orlando, I kind of know that the cab prices were like, if you go from the airport to, let's say, one of the hotels in the Magic Kingdom, it's usually $70 or $75. If you take an Uber, it's like $30 or $35. So take an Uber, and the Uber picks you up. You don't got to walk 3 levels down. The Uber comes, like in Southwest, it's right by gate 14. You walk a good 10 steps. The Uber comes in like 3 minutes. So it's spectacular. Same thing from the hotel, and they're very nice. That's just a plug for taking Uber. And if you're running a course, it saves money. So tell everyone to do the Uber. But going back to Brian and that Uber experience. So that's what he says, is that you're competing with that experience, whether you're in medicine or you're in the hotel business. And he makes the point, like, even the people are stressed by things, and you want to reduce stress. So he mentions the fact is he ordered a pizza from Domino's. I think it was Domino's. And you can see in your app when the pizza's going in the oven, when it's coming out of the oven, when it's being sliced, when it goes in the box, when it goes in the car, where's the car, when's the guy going to knock on your door? And it really resonates with how people want to know what's happening in a very stressful world. People want to have reduced stress. And so when he speaks about a Marriott, and what you need to speak about your hospital and our hospital, is how do you reduce the stress on people? Now, going to a hotel, he said, most of the time you think about it as a vacation, but someone may be going to a hotel because their house burned down. But maybe going to a hotel, they traveled here because a dear one is in the hospital or someone's sick, what's the death in the family. It's not always good reasons people are traveling and staying in hotels, but you need to be kind. You need to really think of what people want. And his job and his position is to think of how to make the experience less stressful. You don't want to wait in line in the lobby. You don't want to get a key and the key doesn't work when you go to your room. You want to be able to just check in remotely, and then your phone becomes your key, which is what's happening. He was showing a little video of where things are going with facial recognition. And yes, I know we could talk about facial recognition being good, facial recognition being bad. But, once you're a Marriott member, when You go up to your room, the facial recognition recognizes you and lets you in. So now you're not carrying a key, you're not carrying a phone, everything is very transparent. And the whole idea of making things transparent, making things very fluid is something he focused on. Also, like I said, the generational thing, the simplicity of it all. He mentioned, I posted on CTisus today this woman's name who's in Japan. She's big, but also big worldwide, where she's focusing on simplicity of design, simplicity in life, and removing clutter. And he focused on that as well. You know, how do you remove clutter? How do you remove the noise? How do you remove the turbulence that occurs? And I think that resonated very well. And particularly all of us in hospitals, people are always in stressful situations. Forget the employees, they're in stressful situations too, but the visitors. You're visiting someone in the hospital, maybe you're being admitted, you're coming for a test, you don't know what's happening. All of those things are very stressful. How do we reduce the stress? Or maybe you can't eliminate stress, but how do you minimize stress? And the players that will succeed are the ones that do that. Now, and maybe we shouldn't even say those people who succeed, because really it's the right thing to do. We're in the patient care business. We need to make sure we take care of our patients. So anyway, let me just also comment. We're about 2/3 of the way in the talk. So if you have any questions, this is perhaps a good time to do it. So I think that's very important. Now, I also wanted to comment on some of the things Brian focused on in terms of the fact that everything changes, that you really need to be ahead of the curve. You need to be anticipating. You can't be reacting. So things will always happen. There's that black swan effect where things come out of nowhere. And for example, Marriott hotels, one of the busiest seasons, Chinese New Year, are going to be sold out everywhere. But now all of a sudden you're totally closed and you don't know when you're going to open. I mean, talking about stress for people, cost for the company and the like. So all of those things become very big issues, and you need to learn to deal with it. Now, let's see, I got on hello from Astana. I'm not sure what that is, but I'll say hello back. That's on our Instagram. Those of you, by the way, let me just comment about Instagram. Our Instagram numbers are over 66,000 followers. So some of our posts get 10,000 plus followers. So Instagram is an interesting way. We have images, we have schematic drawings, we have videos. We kind of mix them up, have only one post a day. It's very clean, uncluttered. And that's pretty cool. So let's see what else. What else did Brian have to say? I think Brian, we did ask him where his favorite Marriotts were. I think there was something in Mexico, a Ritz in Cayman Islands. I'll agree with that. That's spectacular. But I think again is, you know, the whole way you have to do things in Marriott, where you realize you're serving the customers. He also made the point that if you want to be successful, the best way you can get good customer service is to treat the employees well. That he said people forget about that. But if the employees are treated poorly, they're going to treat the customers poorly. If the employees are treated well, there's a good chance they're going to treat the customers well, because they know they're appreciated and they feel part of the process. I think when you're in a situation where you're not treated well, it's unlikely you're going to treat other people well. If you're a technologist and we treat the techs poorly, now we treat them great at Hopkins, but we try to. I surely try to. But if we treat the techs poorly but don't value them, then why in the world would they be treating the patients well? It's just basically downstream. You treat me poorly, I'm just going to behave like you're telling me. On the other hand, if you treat the techs well and their professionalism, complimenting, working with them, not everyone's always right. You need to be clear when things are wrong and you need to improve. But when you have all of those processes in place, things become very, very different. So I think that's a very, very good message. Brian also spoke about the impact of AI and how AI is driving a lot of the properties and what they do, where things are going and how things are going to change. And we spoke about AI at our meeting as well, how AI is going to impact radiology. I gave a talk about that. Some of that is on CTisus in our lecture series, but we will be redoing that talk probably in about 4 to 6 months. I was finishing up with Hannah the talks. Right now, I finished most of the talks through the end of June, so we're a little bit ahead. We're a little bit ahead. We always have to be ahead, of course, but those are brand new talks. Some of them I gave last week. And again, as I said, it's never too early to mark down your calendar next President's Day weekend. And we are doing the meetings Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days, not 4 days. Then people have more flexibility, and I think people do like it. It was only because people requested it that we actually did it. So again, this is a good time to ask a question. We're past that 15-minute mark. I did not watch the debate last night. If anyone wants to know, I read about it. I heard about it. I'm not going to say anything about any candidate, and I will not get involved in the whole politics of things. But from what I hear of how people behaved and how they spoke to each other, you basically look at them and you say, I wouldn't want to be any of your friends. I don't even want to know any of you. Why would I vote for you to be president of our country if you can't treat each other with civility? I mean, not a bunch of 5-year-olds calling each other's names or something. You're a bunch of old people calling each other's names. And give it a break. If you want to debate, we should debate on facts, on principle, on what you're going to do, not debate on and argue about who did what to who, when, and what's true and what's not true. All those things really probably, that's not what the debate is about. If you want to have name calling and making fun of people and calling people stupid and all sorts of things, then watch SNL. SNL's job is to joke about everything. I think SNL has a big problem. I love SNL. SNL is a big problem because they would never portray people being so stupid and so nasty. So they actually have to make the people seem nicer than they are because you wouldn't watch it. It's not funny when you're saying bad things about other people. That's not very funny. And we're trying to elect the president, and whatever the party you are, you want someone who's presidential. You want someone who you're proud to work for, you're proud to work with. But if you don't want to vote for them because they're buttheads, you don't even want to be their friends, you don't want to know them, and you're embarrassed to watch them, perhaps, it needs to be a fix, and maybe just throw the whole bunch of them away. It's just, I don't know. And I see Meg Fines. Hello, Meg Fines. Amen on the debate. Yeah, it's just, I didn't watch it. I read a little bit about it. I heard the things about who called who, what, where, when. Just doesn't seem very presidential. It just doesn't seem like a bunch of, it's not humanity. If you did that at your work, if you behaved like that, they would fire you. If you start speaking and calling other people things about what they did, when, and who said what, when, who, where, why, they'd fire you. They would fire you for being unprofessional, for being disrespectful, for being whatever. So maybe it's something, probably don't let your kids watch the debates. It's kind of X-rated. Maybe it should be X-rated. It surely is poorly rated. But most people don't watch it anyway. So they just want the highlights of who called who, what, where, when. Anyway, that's kind of what happened in Orlando. So I learned a lot of good stuff. Some of the lectures will be online. But I think the best way to get to know about what I learned in Orlando is to join us in Orlando. And that's really what it's all about. Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for their attention and their time. And let me see, I use Google Translation while writing this. I'm very sorry that I don't know English. Oh, I can't understand you. Well, hey, that English came out really good. That Google is pretty good. And I did see Alibaba do the translations in conversation, me and someone from China speaking Chinese at each other. And it translated so fast that we could converse. So the translation is getting better and better and better. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.